Welcome to my podcast. This is Arman Sadeghi, and I'm so honored to have you coming back to visit with me twice a week as we do this podcast. And thank you again for trusting me and believing me, letting me be your coach, letting me be your guide, letting me be one of the many people in your life who provide you with information and knowledge on a regular basis. Today's topic is a topic that I think is one of the most powerful things that I've ever learned. And it's this concept that at any moment there are three key decisions that we are all making. And these three decisions are the decisions that completely shape our lives and our destinies. Now, what are these decisions? Well, let me tell you. Number one, it's a decision of what you focus on. So as you're sitting there or standing and you're listening to this podcast episode, your mind has a choice of what it decides it's going to focus on. Now, part of it could be you may choose to focus on what I'm saying, and maybe your mind might be wandering and focusing on something else. Hopefully, you're all focused on exactly what I'm saying. So if your focus goes somewhere, now it's not just are you focusing on the podcast or not, you're going to focus on the different aspects of what I say, because by the time I'm done with this podcast episode, research has shown that over 95% of what I say, you're not even really going to remember. So you're only remembering about 5% of what I say during this podcast episode. But the question is, which 5% do you remember? Now, there's no doubt sometimes I'm going to stumble. Sometimes I'm going to misspeak. Sometimes I'm going to say something that is going to be good in your opinion, and sometimes I'm going to say something that's not going to be so good in your opinion. But so you have a decision of what you focus on. Which 5% of the content that you hear today do you actually focus on? And more importantly, of course, some of that 5% may be even things I don't say because you're focusing on things around you or other things that you may be doing while you're listening to this podcast. So human beings at any point in our lives, we have a choice of focusing on things. And when we focus on things, we then make the second decision. And that second decision is what meaning are you going to give to that thing? So we decide what we're going to focus on. And once we've decided what we're going to focus on, we then make another decision that's even more important in shaping our lives. And that is the decision of saying, what does that thing mean? For example, if I say something where I stumble, right, you might focus on that while other people don't even focus on it at all. And the person who focuses on me stumbling while I speak or when I misspeak, whatever it may be, then they get to give it a meaning, right? Someone might give it the meaning of, wow, this Arman guy, look, he's like a real human being. I really like this guy. Yeah, he's a neuroscience guy and he's a business guy and he's a coach and he's a speaker. But look, he's just like me. I like this guy a lot. Whereas someone else might take that and go, this guy, he's got a podcast and you know what? He can't even speak properly. Look at that. He just stumbled or he just misspoke or he said something wrong. Right? So you have a choice of what meaning you give that focus. And then finally comes the third decision that is literally shaping your life consistently. And that is, once you've focused on something, once you've given that thing a meaning, what are you going to do about it? Number 3 is action. So at every moment after we focus on something and we give it a meaning, we look at it and we take an action based on those things, right? So some of us, we go out, for example, and we might see, here's a silly example. You see a booger hanging out of someone's nose, right? And you look at that thing and you go, oh my God, there's a booger. Some of us won't even focus on the booger. Some people focus on other things, but then sometimes we focus on the booger, right? And then the meaning we give that booger could be different. Someone's going to say, man, this person's disgusting. Oh God, how gross is that? Someone else says, man, I remember when I had a little something coming out of my nose and I was really happy when someone told me so I could wipe it away, right? So we could give it different meanings. And then let's say you give it the meaning of the second one I said, which is, wow, I wish someone would tell me. And then you tell the person, you're like, hey, the action you take is, hey, you might have a little something on your nose. You might want to wipe it off, right? Or hand them a tissue or something like that. And so those are the actions you can take. Someone else might take a different action by turning around and not talking to the person because they're grossed out by it, right? So at any moment, we have a choice of what we focus on, what meaning we give to things, and then what action we take. Now, where does this really come in? It's in our relationships with other human beings that this really comes in. I happen to be married to one of the most incredible human beings on the planet who, without even knowing it, has mastered this thing. I mean, this girl, you should see in our relationship, she focuses on all the good things that I do and happens to overlook all of the things that I fall short on. I mean, 99% of the time, this woman is incapable of noticing my shortcomings, whether it has to do with my looks, my personality, the things I say, the things I do, my failures, my successes. This woman somehow magically sees all of the good in me and very, very, very little of the bad. And she focuses on the things that I do that are good. right? She focuses on the positive. And then once she focuses on something that's positive about me, the meanings she gives to it are just so beautiful and so rich. And then the action she takes is she treats me better than anyone else has ever treated me in my entire life, including men, women, parents, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles, everyone. No one in my life has ever treated me as well as this woman does. And it's because she focuses on the right things about me. She gives them beautiful meanings, and then she takes actions that are positive. And it makes me want to do the same for her. And I hope that if she was here, she would say that, yes, it's true. He does do the same back for me. But so many people in relationships, you find that they're always focused on the negative. Their focus is always on the negative. For example, let's say your significant other wants to go out with his or her friends, right? And for some reason you can't go. Well, you can focus either on the fact that, hey, this person is going out without me, or you can focus on the fact that this person gets to go out and have a good time tonight, right? And then the meaning you give to it could be you give it a negative meaning by saying, that means that he or she doesn't love me, and that means this person doesn't care about me, and that means this person's going to leave me, and that means this person's unfaithful, and whatever else. Whereas you could give it a positive meaning. Hey, we have such a beautiful, healthy relationship that we're both people who are able to get out there, have friends, and socialize. And although we love being together, when we're not together, we can still have a lot of fun without each other. And then the action you take is maybe the negative one would be to yell and scream at your significant other and tell them, I can't believe you're doing this. You're a terrible person. You're mean, or you pout, or whatever you do, right? Or worse, you let them go. And then you just, you let them hear about it for the next 3 weeks. Or what you do is take a positive action by going, hey, come here, let me help you fix your hair so you look good. And then you tell them, hey, you know what? When you get out there today, I know I'm not going to be there. Just have a good time, relax, enjoy yourself. You don't get a lot of time to go out by yourself with your friends, so make sure that you enjoy that time. See, it's those things that shape our destiny because we're making these 3 decisions at every single moment of our days, right? And when you think about this, you start to become conscious of what you're focusing on, what meaning you're giving things, and what action you're taking. Because throughout your life, no matter what experiences you're having, I guarantee you that at least 1,000 times a day, you are faced with a choice of what to focus on. And then you are given the choice of what meaning you give that thing that you focus on. And finally, you can take action. You can take whatever action you want based on what it is that you focus on. So what I want you to do is become conscious of this. Become conscious of the fact that you can focus on whatever you want. You can give whatever meaning you want to it. And you can, in fact, take whatever action you want. And when you do this, you're going to see just how incredibly empowering it is to have this thing inside of you where you literally get to control your thoughts. You get to control your destiny. And even if the worst things in the world happen to you, even if your life is falling apart all around you, even if you have failure, that's one of the things that people look at my life and the people who are closest to me, I think they start realizing, my goodness, this guy fails a lot. I fail more than anyone else I've ever met in my life. Why? Put something and it's 2 feet high and you say jump over it. And I know I can easily clear 2 feet. I'm going to tell you to raise it up to 4 feet. Because the whole point is if I already know I can clear a 2-foot jump, why would I have you keep it there for me? Where so many people in life set their goals so low that they can easily clear them. And while they don't fail in the short term, they fail miserably in the long term in life. And that is not the kind of life I want to have. I am not going to be the kind of person who's going to constantly set the bar low for myself just so I can feel like a success. So I fail all the frickin' time. I fail in my businesses, in my relationships, in all things. But you know what? They're not failures. And they're certainly not a bad thing because I bounce back from them better than I've ever been before. And the way that I do it is I'm constantly focused on the learning experience. I'm focused on what I now know that I didn't know before. I'm focused on who I am now that I wasn't before. I'm focused on the fact that I'm a better person now. I'm a stronger person, that I've gone to another level. And next time when I get faced with the same thing, I'm not going to let it get to me. And giving that focus there and having that kind of a meaning attached to it allows me to take incredibly empowering actions that propel me forward, actions that allow me to be truly at my very, very best. And that's the gift I want to give you today. It's the gift of knowing you get to focus on whatever you want, give whatever meaning you want to it, and take whatever action you desire. So if you've got a lot of negative things in your life right now, God forbid if you have health problems, if you have relationship issues, if you have financial issues, anything that's going on in your life that you're not totally, perfectly, 100% happy with, I want you to understand that you are brewing this on the inside of you by focusing on the wrong things, by giving it the wrong meanings, and by taking the wrong action. Think about that right now. Think about the one thing right now that's bothering you more than anything else in the world. And when you go there, I guarantee you are focusing on a negative aspect of this thing. And I guarantee you're giving a negative meaning to it. And I guarantee you the actions you've taken have been negative around this thing. Otherwise, it wouldn't feel so terrible, right? So now take that same thing. Think about what if you could change the focus just slightly? You could skew your angle just a little bit so you can look at a different perspective of it. I can tell you 2 years ago, I went through the most horrific experience of my life where my face was literally bashed in. I had to have facial reconstructive surgery, one of the worst experiences a human being can possibly go through. But you know what was awesome about it? For the 3 or 4 days or however long it was that I was in the hospital, while I was having surgery done to put my face back together using titanium, let me tell you, I got to see all of my friends and family. And I got to spend more time with my friends and family than I've ever spent before with them, or more than I've spent with them in decades, I would say. And in fact, my sister, who is a doctor, came and spent the night with me in the hospital room, and she and I got to be together for almost 24 hours, which is more time than I've spent with my sister for literally probably decades. And see, that was a beautiful thing. So yes, even the worst things in the world can have some incredibly positive sides to it. And I want you to notice that if you take this thing that's going on in your life, if you just change your angle a little bit, pretend like you're a camera, and move the camera over a couple of inches. Maybe move it over to the side or to the back of this situation. And notice how there is a different focus that you can have. Yes. Now what about the meaning? What about the meaning that you can give to it? For example, if you got your face bashed in, there are a lot of meanings you can give to it. But what if you were to give it an empowering meaning? Like the meaning I gave to it was that this meant that God had given me another chance to live because I almost died. And having that near-death experience, or it's not even a near-death experience, I literally died and came back to life on this sidewalk, right? New Year's Eve, 2 years ago, I literally died on the sidewalk, and my wife saw me laying there in a puddle of blood. And I came back to life somehow, magically, miraculously, and I knew that the purpose of my life was to give back. So today, I'm standing here and I'm recording this podcast episode because I want to influence your life. And next month, I have an incredible Titanium Live event that's designed to help change people's lives. Even though I don't make any money from any of this stuff, of course, you know the podcast is free. My events are name your own price. All the stuff that I do is just for giving back. And it all came out of that thing. Why? Because I focused on the right things and I gave them the right meanings. And then finally, the actions, right? So when you're looking at this thing you're experiencing right now, you've changed your focus now, I know. And now you're giving it a more positive meaning. You're giving it a different meaning. What does this mean? This means empowerment. This means growth. This means an opportunity to be even better than you've ever been before. This means that God has selected you to do more than what other people may need to do on this planet. Whatever it is that the meaning that you've given to it. Now what I want you to do is I want you to decide what actions you're going to take, because that's the third decision. And you get to take whatever action you want. And today, as I stand here and I record this podcast episode, this is part of me taking this massive action to live what I believe God has put me on this earth to do. And that's what I'm doing today. That's why I've taken my neuroscience background and I've taken my years of experience in business. And instead of going out there and trying to make millions and millions more dollars in business, which, trust me, if I were to put my focus on business, I have a lot of opportunities to make a lot more money than doing this sort of stuff. Right? I love being a coach for people. I love being a business coach. I love getting in there and doing all these different things. But you know what? The bottom line is that it fulfills me. It makes me happy, right? And that's the action that I've chosen to take. So what I want you to do as you're looking at this thing, you've now changed your focus. You've given it a more empowering meaning. Now it's all about action. Today is the day you take different kind of action on this thing that you're going through. And I wish this was a live episode where I could have you guys call in and ask me questions. Because at my events, this is the thing I love doing more than anything else, is getting people to tell me these things. And then I can help you realize how you're almost always, when you're going through a tough time, it's almost always because you're focusing on the wrong thing, giving it the wrong meaning, or taking the wrong kind of action. Most importantly, let me tell you, it is focus. Most people spend most of their lives focusing on all the wrong things. And then when they focus on the wrong things, sadly, they give the wrong meaning to those things. And of course, you have no choice at that point but to take poor actions. So don't start with trying to change your actions. Go back to meaning and focus. And in fact, some of you who may struggle with things like anger and other sorts of negative personality behaviors, one of the things I want you to try is, if you've ever struggled with that, stop trying to control the action. See, it's not about not getting angry. It's about noticing, what did you focus on? And what meaning did you give to it that then made you angry? That's the most important advice I can give you if you want to avoid some of those negative behaviors. If you've struggled in relationships, right? Struggled with jealousy, struggled with anger, struggled with whatever problems in a relationship, go back and see how can you change your focus and the meaning you give to it. And magically you'll see that most of your actions will change automatically. But once you master focus and then you master meaning, then yes, you can also master action. But most people want to start with action. So get out there today. Focus on the right things. Focus on empowering things. Give them empowering meanings. And then take action that propels you forward, my friend. And take action that is going to consistently help you grow. I love you all. I hope to see you next month at Titanium Live, or if you're listening to this podcast episode a few months from now or a year from now, just find my next event. Come to my event. I do it twice a year. I love doing this. I love you guys, and I want you to tell you to go out there every single day, focus on the right things, give them empowering meanings, and take really incredibly powerful action. And as always, please get out there and lead with your heart. Is that how my song would know? It's not how it goes. All right.
Thanks for listening to Titanium Life Radio with Arman Sadeghi here on the Apollo Podcast Network. For more information or to subscribe to this podcast, visit titaniumsuccess.com/podcast.